Hello, I hope you enjoyed the tour of my soon-to-be finished collection room. It was kind of a mess, and there you go. I don't even know enough to be ashamed, but I'm working as fast as I can. I have to explain this little, like, my eyebrows aren't even. It's making me crazy, so I scrubbed and scrubbed here. And that'll probably bruise up pretty nice by the morning. Anyway, I need to come and clarify some things because I think because I've said some weird things, haven't I? Not too much. Well, what do you think I've said that was weird?
Just explain a lot, repeat a lot.
Okay, that's valid. I do repeat a lot. And I don't know, I was here to explain things. Would someone explain that to me? I don't know. I sometimes feel like I didn't get my point across. I also am kind of someone who just comes naturally to teaching people. So when I know something, I must explain it to you fully so that you know it. How's that? Now, I am going to talk not about Funkos. Is that a shock or what? I do have a story. I've got a couple stories. First of all, I can say this story is about my mom, and she would have loved Funkos. If there was 2 of something in the world, she didn't want them. She wanted 50 of something. I'm so glad you're not sitting here because I just spit everywhere. Ugh. Anyway, that's just my mom, the way my mom was. And I did inherit that from her. And my makeup here, not that I didn't mess it up, I did, but my mom couldn't put, I'm old enough to know how to do this, but I've never been a big makeup wearer because people used to always tell me, oh, you're such a natural beauty. Well, I wasn't, and I'm even less now. So, but that was like an explanation of why I didn't have to get up early in the morning and put on makeup because I was a natural beauty. He's laughing, good thing. Anyways, and my makeup, my lips are a tribute to my mother. She wore red lipstick during a time when there was a true stain in lipstick. And she wore it every day. She would get up in the morning, make her coffee, then put on the lipstick, then drink the coffee, then put on some more lipstick. And at night if she ever took it off, it didn't matter. Her lips, when she got out of the bathtub, were my light's gone. Shoot. God doesn't want me to tell you this. My light's gone. Bill's going to turn a light way over there. Did that help? But it's okay. Oh, that helps. Anyway, so this lip stain, will not come off. I will have to cream it off. But it is in tribute to my mother, in whom I was not well pleased. But I do want to tell you a story, and I will tell you how this story started to be coming forth from me to people like you, hopefully. I know I got a message that one of you suffers from depression and has fought it for a long time, and that is me also. Gosh, I'm Maddie. Let me just pull out these mats for an hour or two. Anyway, so I was writing a book called Growing Up Crazy about my childhood being raised by a mentally ill parent. My mother was a paranoid schizophrenic. She was also a woman who came from great poverty to great wealth to kind of poverty again. I'm not going to answer it. I don't know who it is. I don't care. But anyways, so she had this mental illness that plagued her obviously her whole life. There wasn't a lot of medication back then. My mom was born in 1917. She had me when she was 43 years old, and she passed away in 1998, 97 or 98. I was no longer in contact with her because I just couldn't be. So this is a little hard, but not a lot. And so the reason she didn't get the one medication that helped her, she would get when she got picked up by whichever police or law department got a hold of her, they would take her to the nearest mental health facility, and she would get this medication called Thorazine. I don't know if you've ever heard about doing the Thorazine shuffle. That was my mom. And it helped her. She would sleep for hours, and she'd wake up very groggy, but very much her. So I alluded yesterday or the day before, I just blurted out for some reason that the FBI came to my door when I was a teenager in high school. This is true. And it is my mother's fault. And I just feel compelled to tell you that that wasn't a crazy, because I looked at it just a little while ago and I was like, holy crap. If I were watching me, knowing mental illness the way I did, I'd say, that girl's got a problem. Mental ill much? Yes, I am mentally ill, but I do take a lot of medication and go to a lot of doctor's appointments and have a lot of people in my family who understand. And understanding is kind of a relevant term. You can understand, and then you can understand. I'm pretty lucky. My kids are good. My husband, on the other hand, is a saint because he married me knowing how bad I was. He got me help because my whole life I waited for the voices to start like my mom had. And instead, I had been depressed for years and it was so normal to me, I had no idea what it was. So, yeah. My mother used to run away from home the way I was supposed to do, but I never got a chance because she did it. So she got mad at me one time and ran away from home, and I came home, she wasn't there, so I would call my aunt. My aunt would send me money so I could either pay the rent and have food and have electricity and, you know, just live until my mom could come home. And she was a lot like Oprah's mom. She was a domestic worker. She cleaned people's houses for a living. After living in her own house with a whole staff of people when she was married for the first time to an attorney who was actually in line to be a senator until some bad things happened to him, and then she went back to poverty and had me. And so yeah, we'll start from there. It was in the 1970s, and there is this girl named Patricia Hearst. Now, she came from probably one of the richest families in the country. The Hearst family was known for newspapers. He owned a ton of them. He lived in Hearst Castle, if you've ever been up to San Simeon and went through the big, huge, or saw the big, huge castle up in the mountains, up on the hill. That was his residence. The biggest stars in Hollywood would drive up there, blah, 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 and this was her family. Well, I don't know what the heck happened to her, but supposedly she was kidnapped. And they were looking for her, and there was, you know, there obviously with the kidnapping, especially of somebody from such a family, the FBI gets involved. Well, Patricia Hearst was probably my height, certainly not my weight. I was tall, and I mean, my mom's 5 foot was 5 foot nothing. My father was about 6'5". So there you go. I was chubby and kind of tall, but so I was doing my homework or whatever it is I used to do when my mom wasn't home, and you know, I was kind of dreading sundown because it was scary. And there was a very distinct knock on the door. Bop, bop, bop. Just like that. It's like, who the hell knocks on my door like that? Nobody, you know, everybody in the neighborhood. There was a lady who lived right across the carport. Knock, knock. It's me. And she'd open the door. That was fine. That was neighbors. So I went over and I looked through the thing and I saw the chest of this big man in a black suit. So my stepfather wore a black suit, but he was short and squat, fat. And this guy was big. And I opened the door and there were two of them and a big white van in my driveway. Literally a big white van in my driveway. So in the meantime, actually I missed a point. Before this happened, everybody had assumed Patty Hearst had been kidnapped and was being held for ransom, and I don't think any ransom was ever requested. But she started robbing banks with this organization called the Symbionese Liberation Army. People all of a sudden were like, oh, Patty Hearst, yeah, she's rich, and now she's getting back at her family, and she's going in to rob banks. And she did have a gun, you know, a big automatic weapon, a rifle. So anyways, I opened the door, and there was two big guys there, and they both pulled out their wallets with badges and big old cards that said FBI. I wasn't really quite sure what they wanted with me or who they really were. Of course, you know, watch things like that on TV, but never really thought you would see one in your living room. But yet there they were. So they wanted to know if Patricia Hearst was in my house. And I was like, thanks, Mom, because I knew right away. And I said, no. Oh, well, do you know such and such a person? And I said, yes, that's my mother. And before he could say anything, I said, and she called the FBI and told you I was Patty Hearst and I lived here. And he smiled, this little, thank God she's not Patty Hearst, because then we'd have a big mess smile. And I did, like I said, favor Patty Hearst in that I had long brown hair. I think she had brown eyes, but I have blue eyes. But, you know, he said they had to follow up every lead. And I said I understood. And I was waiting for him to ask where my mother was so they could pick her up and take her away yet again. Not that they'd picked her up before, but plenty of law enforcement came to our door once or twice a year after my mother had had some kind of mess. Oh, that's bad. There we go. So, yeah, they left. And about 2 weeks later, there was a huge explosion followed by a huge shootout between the FBI, and several other agencies with the Symbionese Liberation Army. It was if I remember, and I didn't look it up, I should have looked it up. It was less than 20 miles from my house. And this was a woman who could have been anywhere in the world. And she was 20 miles from my house. I am lucky that they didn't just say, okay, it's over, and take me and say I was Patty Hearst and give me a whatever tattoo she had or something. So, this may explain a little bit why I'm a little seem off sometime, or I come in and say I'm depressed. And the reason I'm telling you right now, and I recognize this, but there's not a damn thing I can do about it, and that's because I'm bipolar. And right now, my bi is on the happy side of my polar. If you can understand that, that's the way it is, right? So I'm happy, which means I've been on the computer all day putting things in baskets. Now, I can't afford to buy those things, but it just feels so good to have them in my basket. So it doesn't hurt anything. They'll eventually come out of the basket, or I'll get a notice saying, do you still want these wonderful things in your basket? Your total is 50, maybe $60,000 or whatever it is. It's not like you can go to the store, go to a car place site and buy a limo or something. But that's what I do, unless I really have money. And then henceforth, the big hauls that sometimes I have. But that's because my husband lets me. He completely is codependent on me, as my daughter, the social worker, has diagnosed. He's saying yes. Tell them, Daddy.
I'm a neighbor.
We're full of psychobabble in this house, and even the cat has some kind of disorder, and the doctor won't see her. I don't know why. So anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know that if I seem weird or off, I am weird, I am off, and I do accept it. At my age, I should. I am not going to cry. I'm crying. My eye makeup is so screwed. I saw that. They need to blur out more of that butt, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, this has complicated my life in many ways for many, many years. But it has not taken my life in the sense that it took my mom's. I'm happy. I have some friends on Facebook that are actual, I know them, friends from high school and from other places, not a lot of them, and I don't get to see them very often, if ever. Shout out to Michelle and Connie Lee. I love you guys. And to you guys, I do appreciate that you care enough to see what my Funko stuff's about. And you listen to shit like this.